there's one movie out now that I think is a mixture of Escape from New York and Road Warrior with zombies.
I mean, that's a good combination. Every movie should be about all those things.
Yeah, it sells itself almost, right?
Yeah, the problem with the movie we're talking about today is that it dropped in 2020, and it's about a post-apocalyptic landscape, which maybe people weren't ready for.
Yeah. Which is Escape from New York and
exactly,
Road
yeah.
Warrior, yeah.
So we talked about Train to Busan already. We talked about Seoul Station already. We're here to complete the trilogy.
The logical step is
Peninsula. Join us. Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hey, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. Hey, we're on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us there. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals to tell us what to do. And today we're going to talk about a movie that finally came to the U.S. in like August, 2020?
It was in 2020. I know it was a Shudder exclusive.
Exclusive, so it's been a while, but we're going to talk about it because we had some great success for Train to Busan.
Yeah, exactly. You wanted more. So, set 4 years after the events of Train to Busan, the zombie virus has spread across South Korea. A former South Korean Marine Corps captain living in Hong Kong joins a team set to sail for the quarantine zone in order to retrieve a truck full of money. But when they encounter survivors among the zombies, their mission is made all the more complex.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to address right away with this movie is editing is probably the most fantastic editing film. Like an okay movie for me.
Yeah.
But the editing is so phenomenal. It is so clean and it's so precise. It's wonderful editing. And it's Yang Jim Mo, who also did Parasite.
Oh, yep.
And I thought Parasite was fantastic editing. So if one of the overall things you want to take away from this movie, you can criticize the gaudiness or like that. But I think the editing is precise at every moment. It's wonderfully crafted editing.
Well, this is a movie that it kind of veers away from some of the social commentary, some of the themes that were present in Train to Busan, and some of the ingenuity. It's a more generic zombie movie, but I think the entertainment value is still there, and that's part of the reason is that the action scenes are intense. The interactions are much more like kind of just, I don't want to say like memorably confusing, but like there's an element to I don't know what's going to happen next. That kept playing up there. It was surprising. Yeah, great editing, great cinematography. I mean, some people have criticized the action scenes as being a little bit too heavy on the CG, but at the same time, like
the car chases are a little.
The car chase is basically like this is a zombie movie that evolved into a Fast and the Furious sequel, and I'm kind of okay with that. It's just the problem is you're following up Train to Busan, so it's notable that this film is not Train to Busan.
And I'll tell you about. I really liked it.
I did too,
and I know it's getting like a harsh criticism, but that's you're using your barometer perspective as a major hit. That it's a sequel to this, and it's trying to stand alone. It's not a horror movie, I would say. It's more of an action movie. Yeah, it's a little more popular action movie. Obviously, got horror like zombies and everything, but I would take this as a little more action oriented.
Yeah, it reminds me of the tone that was trying to be going for with the Resident Evil movies. Was that they were trying to be a little like that action horror, a little bit less on the horror, but we're using horror elements to create an action movie. Something that's popcorny. This is very popcorny, and I was there for it the whole time. I was tense the entire time.
I do like the beginning of it. It goes full throttle. It doesn't stop. I mean, you get a monster crawling on the woodwork, cuts very nicely, and then you have all these people fleeing, and you have this. And you change what's important to the story. Mm-hmm. But after that, it settles down. But I think the only weakness of it is probably the third act, because they kind of know what's going to happen. Well, and it gets kind of almost, I would say, like Anderson does with Resident Evil, way ridiculous at the end.
So the problem I have with the end, and we're going to get into a little bit of spoilers here. The movie's been out for 2 years. You got a choice here: go watch the movie and then come back. So the ending, the whole part where he's like, "I'm going to go back and get your mom." The mom could have just gone. Like she wasn't that injured. They could it's very obvious they have enough time to get out. The zombies kind of just disappeared.
I wasn't thinking that precise moment, but I'm just saying the whole car chase thing was like...
Oh, yeah. I just think tightening that ending up. Yeah. I don't think the ending itself...
I love the editing, and they want to show how... Like the obstacles they had to overcome. You could cut that.
I just think get to that point faster, because it's funny to say, like, in a movie like Train to Busan, we know when a character, like, starts to talk about what they need to accomplish, that is the next character to die. You know, it's almost like a cliche of a character in a zombie movie. It's like, well, here's what we have to do. And you're like, that's not going to go well. This is a movie where it almost gets a little bit too sweet with its finale, where it's like,
there
I'm
you
going to survive this, and you're like, now it's cliche because of the exact opposite reason.
There, you're getting exactly. You said it better than I did. Yeah.
No, but I agree with you. The ending, I don't dislike the ending. It's just it's a lot happening that could be a lot simpler, could be more simplified.
And that's what it was.
Getting there.
Before that, that's what it was. It was
Yeah.
a simple heist movie too.
Yeah,
it was a simple heist movie.
And this was a zombie heist movie before Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, which came out the following year. And I actually really praised that movie too, because I said that movie knew the tone it was going for and it hit it. This is a movie, again, knows the tone it wants to do, it goes for it. But I think there's a little bit more of an emotional beat with that opening scene. I really like that opening scene.
I do
He's
too.
traveling with his sister.
It's almost
her
like I like
husband
the
and
opening
kid.
scene of taking lives, and it just
But that went downhill from there.
yeah.
But yeah, that moment where like the woman's like, just take the baby, just take my child and leave me if you don't trust me. And he's like, we gotta go. And I didn't even think for a second that he was gonna run into those characters. I thought like, I was like, this is just a moment for the characters to understand what's happening. But the fact that he runs into the very woman he betrayed, I don't know.
Yeah, so that, but you understand.
I think it's great that he does that.
Yeah, it's great. And you got the infection happening on the boat,
Mm-hmm.
and the child. They actually focus more on the kid's reaction and everything, the chaos and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I said a lot of talented, crafted work, but I think you need to clean up a little bit. And the third act gets a little more cartoonish than I think it should be. I think it needed a little more grittiness to this.
Yeah.
The stunts are phenomenal, but they're a little more dark. There's a great action sequence where he takes the gun to the guy's foot and pulls the trigger into his chin. I had to go back because it's so dark and go, where was that? If you lit that, it was a fantastic stunt play.
The brightness factor is there as well. Yeah, is the film light enough to work? I particularly noticed the overly dark nature when we passed by that kind of staircase where all the zombies are entrapped in the glass pane.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're gonna see that next. We're gonna see that eventually.
It's a
And I
little
like that there's the callback going to it.
forecast, yeah.
But I just thought that moment when all the zombies are falling out of that glass once it's been shattered, it's too dark to tell kind of that mob, that glob-like CGL hitting there, because as a person who really didn't like the movie World War Z for using the kind of like Play-Doh zombies, this had Play-Doh zombies that I wanted to see more of, and it was too dark at that point.
And you had some fantastic stunts where I think you need a little more light to show how impressive they were. Because like I said, that one stunt was so marvelous. When he takes the gun on this guy's foot and pulls the trigger up to his chin, I had to go back and how did they do it? Oh, that's what happened. Because it's like, I wish I could see better, because that's fantastic stunts in there. And I think that's an overall metaphor I'm trying to explain the movie. There's some great things to this, but it's hidden too much.
Yeah, and it's again following up Busan. So I'm happy I didn't rewatch Busan before this film, because I kind of wanted to separate the two, so I could view this on its own merits. Because Train to Busan is such a tight narrative that is so focused on one thing, this driving force through the train. This film, again, it's way more generic. It's way more just zombie action movie, entertaining, but it loses a lot of those elements that made that first film.
You almost have an emotional breakdown at Train to Busan. This one, you can have a popcorn and have, hey, this is a good time.
Yeah, I don't think I was emotionally invested in any of the characters. Maybe outside of the children that have been in this quarantine zone, because that's the only life. The one girl makes a mention that, I don't know if I want to go back to the real world because, I like this life. That made me feel.
A little more of the syndrome, the acclimate, yeah.
Yeah, where they're in this world. This is what they know.
I know why a caged bird sings, and he thinks flying looks horrendous.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
But right, and I think you need to clean it up a little bit. Like I said, editing is really phenomenal in this movie. We like the cinematography. I do like the gels, colorizations from blues to golds and all that stuff. But it's just hot, messy.
Yeah, it's messy at times, yeah. There's an interspersing of mess.
This cage fight thing, did you really need to have it in there? Because that's super Road Warriors.
Well, and we've seen, as a person who's watched The Walking Dead, we saw that in season 3 of that show. So all the way back in 2012, I think we had Walking Dead kind of doing let's throw a bunch of guys in the pit with the zombies and see what happens. So it's just that, the zombie genre is due for a collapse right now, where it's just, we've hit every single mark we need to. We're going to put this, subgenre away for a couple years, let it marinate, and we'll come back with some new stuff. But we're just kind of waiting on.
Why don't you play
those
bowling
things
with the zombies? Put them up.
I wanted to see the cruise ship with the zombies. I thought that was the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, they're gonna be stuck on here. One of them's gonna get infected. Like, ooh, that'd be kind of cool. So
Death in a Nile and with zombies.
yeah, it was Titanic. Get the love story and it's sinking, and then zombie comes and chews on you. I know. Overall I really liked the movie, but those were like those elements that stuck with me. Of there was things that I saw that I wanted to see more of, and there was things I saw that I was like, we've seen a lot of this before, and it's there. I wish we could have spent
Didn't
more
have the
time
right
with
balance.
Yeah.
I think if we hit the balance, hit the nail ahead, you had a major hit on this. And like I said, I really enjoyed the movie. I'll go back and watch it.
I will too.
Funny, yeah.
I will. I actually was just thinking, like, I kind of want to do the 3 movies again: the Seoul Station, the Train to Busan, and Peninsula, and just like rip through a trilogy night at my home, because it just sounded like a lot of fun. One other thing I want to point out, absolutely, because I was like, I've got to make mention of this.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen like the American releases of like the Godzilla movies from Toho? Where they added in like famous actors like Raymond Burr, and like they put
Godzilla '85.
Yeah, they put these white notable American actors in the film, and they basically would just say what all the Japanese characters are saying, but they'd say it in English because clearly in America we don't want to read subtitles. It felt like an Americanized version of those Godzilla films and a lesser product. In this movie, we get so much English, and specifically American actors placed in the movie at the beginning to basically catch us up to speed. That was some of the worst acting I've ever seen in that opening few minutes with the American actors that are like on the news show, and they're like sitting back going like, yeah, there's zombies out.
Well, the UN said this and
yeah, and it's like, oh man, I thought I was in for an absolute, paraphrased here, train wreck of a movie when that opening, because I really was like, oh god, this is gonna be rough. Thankfully, they never go back to that once the film actually kicks into high gear. But I would rather not see the English being used unless it was organic to the narrative, because it just doesn't feel at place. Like the first film didn't have that. This one doesn't need to, but you can tell they're like, hey, Americans watch the movie, so like let's give them a little bit more of this to watch. But I don't think they ride the line of like not giving enough English for the people that actually care about reading subtitles.
It is an obstacle because you have to put subtitles on to watch this movie, and then it's like translated to Korean, and then now they're speaking, and then it's overlapping subtitles sometimes.
Yeah. And it's like, again, like it's almost like the Oscars trying to add those other awards in, where it's like you're trying to win people that aren't going to watch you anyway. Yeah. Like anyone who wants to watch Peninsula is going to be somebody that's going to go into it knowing I'm going to read subtitles. I don't care, because foreign films are really cool. I really enjoy a lot of them.
We watch
it
enough
doesn't bother me. Yeah. But like the people that do care are going to aren't going to watch the movie because they think it's going to be subtitled. So you're not winning anyone with that. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Yeah, that's something I noticed.
I do like the overall characters. We have the lead character, Gang Dong Wong.
Yep.
He plays Jang Suk.
Yep.
Good.
I think he's solid. Yeah.
I mean, more than good. I think he had physically demanding.
I think his is the character that I'm most like. I'm most interested in the arc that he's portraying, because a choice he made to save a lot of lives ended in the death of his sister and the death of his nephew, and now he has to live with that and live with the husband, a man who now pretty much hates his guts. You caused the death, even though he was doing it for the greater good. Like he's got this pain and sorrow of a choice he had to make that was the right call.
He sold it really convincingly. I do like I wish they really emphasize that more in the story. That really the core of that.
I think you could have had that with if we spent more time with the brother-in-law, the two of them together,
right?
Because they get separated early on in the film, and then it's like I want to see them back together again, and then we don't get them back together long enough because the narrative again has chosen a different path. So I think what we're trying to say about the movie is like, as much as we enjoyed it, we can see the issues there, and they don't bother us as much, but they are there.
They are there. I mean, obviously, yes, right. I agree. And it's a little more dark because there's some fantastic things in there, but they go by too quickly.
Yep.
And I think that you need to just have too much car chase, too much. I like that, but I really focused with the characters, and that's what Train to Busan did.
Yeah. Well, in this film as well, so we mentioned, of course, like it being so heavily focused on action and things moving really fast at times. This is a movie where you could see it as a little cliche of kind of a visual appeal, but the slowing down, the slow motion scenes, I actually kind of liked it because it gave me a second to like see what was actually being done, and the film is so beautiful. It is so well shot that like I actually was able to be like, oh, check that out, like, ooh, neat. I was really like a kid in a candy store watching the movie.
I think if, another film critic, I can't remember their name, sorry, but he said it works best when the movie slows down. I think there's a lot. Yeah, you really want to invest in the characters and there's torment, but I think you want your roller coaster ride to it. As well.
Yeah, it's really a combination of a lot of other movies. And you could say maybe a lot of other movies that have done it a little bit better, but if you choose to see this as kind of like, you're adding all these different elements together, creating a dish that we've seen before, but doing it well enough that it's still quite edible, it reminded me of Land of the Dead.
A little bit more?
Because...
The one with Dennis Hopper?
Yeah, the one with Dennis Hopper. Because after 3 incredible Living Dead movies from Romero, 3 movies you couldn't compare to anything else because they are just the touchstones of this genre. Yeah. Then you have a movie that is very good in Land of the Dead. It just isn't as good as those other 3.
No, but in that movie, the zombies have retained something of their personality because when a zombie witnesses what people are doing to other zombies, he has a reaction to it. He's repulsed by it. As well as they can be heavily distracted, like the zombies in this movie.
Yeah,
you put a go-kart with...
Yeah, the little distractions there.
I like the kids' remote control car.
The flares.
Yeah,
so I think there's things about it like that I think are really good. It's just we're living in a world where you're always going to compare it with the predecessor.
Because we're so saturated with the genre that we have to... what we retain for a lot of other ones. But right, I think it's a great popcorn flick. There's a lot of things we wish you could invest more, but we appreciate it for it.
Yeah,
and it's like I said, it's fantastically edited.
And it feels pretty fast actually for a movie that it's close to 2 hours. It does feel pretty like again that comes down to that editing portion though. It's like let's not waste any time, and again we only see the wasted time at the end where we're like we know where we're going. Let's just get there a little bit faster. I want to talk about the music real quick. I think the music is something that, while it's not something I'll listen to by itself,
you're not gonna listen on your treadmill.
Yeah, it works in the concept of watching the film. We're talking about I think I'm saying Moog, who did the music.
One word.
I Saw the
one
Devil.
Name, one name.
Yeah, and I Saw the Devil had a great score. This movie has an equally great score, and it's like it's got that kind of like internalized pain.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah, so I was really impressed with the movie overall. Especially, I went into it, of course, knowing about the very mixed reception, and I was like kind of surprised. I was like, well, yeah, it's not as good as the first, but like this is really good still. So
I do like that. We're going to go back there. You're nuts. I just love those.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You have to have a movie to do things that are a little bit nutty.
Yeah. Now there is no next installment in this trilogy as of right now, but there is. I think we mentioned it when we talked about the first film. There is an incoming Americanized remake called, I believe, Last Train to New York, which will be a Train to Busan remake. That is produced by James Wan. I think Timo Tawhanto, who did a lot of really great short films. He has a really like auteuristic kind of viewpoint on film. I'm excited to see that movie. Do you I don't think we need it. Do you think this movie can work as a Americanized version, or is it just going to be like everything else?
If you Americanize it, then you want to emphasize a little more road. Because we have a lot of roads here in America.
Yeah,
miles and miles.
We don't use trains very often anymore.
I think if you do, I'm going to have to contradict myself, and rather than invest in characters, if you do like 80% of vehicles on the road and getting away, I think you have something there that could be a little more Americanized, retaining what you remade it from.
Yeah, and I think going to like Train to Busan, they do get off the train at one point and then they have to get back on it. Like it's not like a movie that is beholden to the train. They get off and they get back on a few times. So I think you can do it, but in an Americanized version of it, I don't want them to like get off the train 20 minutes in and then just keep getting off the train. I want
road movies are started here in America because we have such space and a lot of roads.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. Actually, I didn't even think about that. Like,
yeah. And you can do it. I mean, the 70s, I mean, we did almost, Smokey the Bandit was almost in cars. Like that whole damn movie. So you can be entertaining as well as good character development and sit in a car all day.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to see what happens with that new movie Bullet Train to see if that movie works in the confines of making a Train to New York movie.
I tell you what, writers, if you can figure out a way that zombies can self-drive vehicles, then you got something new.
Oh, you don't know about that, huh?
Yeah.
So I believe Romero's next of the Dead movie was going to be something about like zombie race, like zombies behind the wheel of vehicles racing.
Like they can operate machinery?
Yeah, something like that. And there's been hints that we might get that version from his son.
Okay.
That the script was there, or that they might get a novelized version of it. Like he was about to hit that point where like he was going to, I can't remember what the film was called, but like where it was going to be a very like zombies behind the wheel of cars, like zombies like having this war with us kind of a thing.
Like an evolutionary step that they can now can re-educate themselves. I learned how to drive now.
Yeah. It's drive my car, but with zombies in that case, right? Like
Right.
3-hour movie meditating about
Right. If you're gonna make a new movie, I always say, what is new? What is something new that you're showing me? And this movie definitely has some elements where I've seen before, but there's some new things I've seen. A lot of good stunts, a lot of good atmosphere, but overall, it's still kind of something I've seen before.
Yeah, exactly. But still something very tasty. So,
Tasty.
So what do you think about Train to Busan Presents Peninsula? What is your favorite film in this trilogy of movies? Because it's kind of cool that we have one filmmaker who made all three of them. One filmmaker who was very versed in animation, did the animation film and the live action stuff. And I think that's kind of cool. So let us know your thoughts down below on your favorite film in this trilogy. And should we talk about another movie next? Another zombie film next? Let us know your thoughts on the zombie genre. Is there something that we're missing in our search for the perfect zombie film? We'd love to hear from you. What else can you do? You can like and you can subscribe.
Yes, you can.
Give us those free things that will help promote our channel a little bit more, and make sure you never miss an episode, because we got episodes on Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays. We got episodes all over the place. So please join us for that.
Yeah.
And you can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
Hey, you can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts.
So, don't spend time in the peninsula because the zombies. You know the point.